This short video tutorial will show you step by step how to apply for your child's school transport for secondary school. You should have received an email or a link that will take you directly to this page. But if you haven't, you can go directly to South Lanarkshire Council's website, and if you search for school transport, it'll bring you directly to this page. Once on this page, you're going to scroll down to the secondary schools section. In South Lanarkshire, secondary schools are provided school transport for pupils who live 2 miles or more away from the catchment secondary school by the shortest safe walking route. More information can be found on the safe walking route below and how to calculate this, and we'll come back to that afterwards. However, there is important criteria and things to note before progressing with this application, so please do make sure that you take the time to read the information on this page and make sure it is all applicable to you. The safe walking route, it tells you how this is calculated, but you can also visit this directory here, which will show you a list of the schools, and you would go to St. John Ogilvie High School, where you'll be able to find out more information on the categories in the safe walking routes for St. John Ogilvie High School. Now, that is not the main process here. The main process is actually how to apply. So do make sure to read all this information, and then you're ready to apply for the school transport. So you click this button here, which will take us into our application form. Before you begin, it takes us through the important 2 different types of transport that is available. The entitlement transport is the one that we've just discussed, where it's without outside 2 miles or the criteria mentioned on the previous screen. Or there is paid privilege transport as well. This is a separate application. So for the privilege transport, if you click on this link here, it will tell you more information about what is involved for that. So if your child doesn't qualify for free school transport, or if they are not travelling from their permanent home address, you can apply for privileged transport. And the information and the criteria necessary for that can all be found through this link here. The steps are clear, and the information and the guidelines and what is needed can be all found on that page. Then once you know what kind of transport you're looking to apply for a majority of cases it will be the entitlement transport, this main one here. Once you have identified that, you can then begin with your form. But again, please note that you have made it clear that if you outwith the South Lanarkshire area, you're only entitled to apply for privileged transport, and you should apply through living out with South Lanarkshire. So there's a different part of the application form which we'll see later on. So by completing this form, you are confirming that you've read and agreed to the conditions set out on the above pages. So that is really important that you do take the time to read those. The application form part is a lot more straightforward. School transport, you've got your privacy statement, and it'll take you through this step by step with a progress bar along the top of the screen at all times. So this is just making sure that you're aware of what you're applying for and that you've read all the information before. Then there's a page where it's a bit of information about yourself as the parent, the title, your first name, your last name, your phone number, and your email address, which all can be just filled in by typing in the boxes. The next page asks you to provide your postcode. So by typing your postcode in here, you can look up your postcode, which will then return a list of addresses where you can select your own home address. From here, you're now asked to give information on your child. So the forename of the child, the surname of the child's date of birth, and does the child have any brothers or sisters attending this school? an important thing to note here, and it has mentioned, is that a separate application is required for each child, okay? You can't do bulk applications, so each application must be done separately. This brings us to the next page, where it's about additional information. So about when you want the transport to start, the name of the school where your transport is required. Since this will be a P7 transition, you'll be selecting the secondary school, and the secondary school we're going to be looking at is St. John Ogilvie High School. So you type that in the box provided here. So now we have the school transport, your attendance pattern. So when will your child be attending school? And you're just going to tick all the relevant boxes that appear. And once you've done that, then you'll click for the next page. We're just over halfway complete now. We've hit the 50% mark, well, just over 50% mark now. So what secondary school does your child attend? And it'll be dropped down there, so you're just going to select St. John Ogilvie High School and then move on to your next page. Finally, this is an important part. It's having read the guidance notes. What type of transport do you want to apply for? This brings us back to what we mentioned on the first screen, where there's two different types. There's the free entitlement transport, which is the main transport most people will be applying for, and the privileged transport, which is a special kind of transport that was mentioned at the beginning, and you had to meet those special criteria. So for most people here, it'll be the free entitlement transport they'll be going for. And you click through next. We're now 75% complete. And this is just an overview of the information and the criteria that was mentioned at the beginning of the application. It also mentions if you're applying for on medical grounds that the supporting documentation will need to be forwarded on, and it tells you what address, or if you're using fax or by email, whatever method you're going to be sending it, it gives you how to do that here. Finally, it asks you to choose which mode of or reason for your application. We live 2 miles or more from my child's catchment secondary school by the shortest safe walking route. My child would have to walk a route which is considered unsafe in relation to the Road Safety Forum guidelines. Or finally, my child has been recommended for school transport by their doctor or the school medical officer for health reasons. You select whichever one applies to you and you click next. And this brings us to the end of the application form. This is your final declaration. You read the statement, and if you're happy with that and you've abided by all of that, you will click next. On the next screen, it'll bring you to a page where it'll show you a summary of all your answers, and you'll finally submit your final application. And that is the application complete. However, if you did choose the privileged route, I'm going to show you what questions would have come up there as well. So I've taken us back to this screen here where we were asked the type of transport they wanted to apply for. So there's the free entitlement transport or privileged transport. We went down the free entitlement transport, but if you were seeking privileged transport application, you'd select that here. This will then bring you, is your child travelling from the permanent home address? You would say yes, which will then bring you to your final declaration. Once you click next, it'll bring you to the home summary screen, just like the other application, and then you will submit your final answer. But do make sure that you are applying for the correct transport. That is the most important part of this application form. So the most important screen for this whole thing is your front page, to make sure that you're reading that criteria very carefully before proceeding with the application. As you'll see, the application form itself takes about 10 minutes to complete, probably not even. And if you have any problems or any questions at all, please get in touch with myself. My contact details will pop up on the next slide now. And if you have any questions, please get in touch and I'll be happy to help.